Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of Weekly Oscar Talk. This week I'm not alone like last week. I'm joined as always by Ben, and we have a new face here that you may recognize. I'm joined also by Antony, who will be talking all things awards with us today.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, both of you, for having me. It's
Of
going to be a lot
course.
of fun.
Definitely, yeah. So getting right into it, starting off with some of the recent awards news. First off, there's a bit of a plot twist here. Cate Blanchett, who everyone thought was being campaigned in supporting actress for Nightmare Alley, turns out she's being campaigned in. Oh no, everyone thought she's being campaigned in lead actress. She is now being campaigned in supporting actress, whereas Rooney Mara is being campaigned in lead actress now. Supporting actress, not the most competitive category. What do we think here? Do anyone think she can sneak in and take like Ann Dowd's spot or something?
I think it's hilarious because, of course, there was that whole thing in 2015 when Carol came out and they put Kate in lead and the Rooney in supporting, and many felt it should have been the opposite. It was just, or
Mm-hmm.
they should have been both lead. It was very funny. I think this is interesting. I think what's interesting about Nightmare Alley overall is that I don't know if it would be getting the same awards consideration if Guillermo's last movie wasn't a Best Picture winner. I think
Yeah,
that put a
definitely.
lot of focus on this movie because from the trailer, it doesn't seem the type of film that would garner a lot of acting praise. I mean, maybe Cooper, Willem Dafoe usually is able to sneak in there by himself when you have Florida Project at Eternity's Gate. So he could potentially also, because supporting actor is very not
Empty.
competitive.
Yeah.
So we'll see. As far as the women go, I think we have to see the film. But I mean, Kate Blanchett is always wonderful, as is Rooney Mara, and they usually do intriguing work and they surprise us. So it's possible. But I think, especially for Best Actress, I think that category is so stacked this year out of all of the acting categories. So I
Yeah.
think it might be hard, especially in an ensemble, for Kate to stand out. That's my overall thoughts with this Nightmare Alley situation.
Yeah. What do you think, Ben?
Feel so bad for Rooney Mara. That
Yeah.
poor woman. She's never going to win an Oscar, and she should have won back in 2011 with the girl with the dragon tattoo. And I'll never be over that. That was for me, it's the biggest snub in Oscar history because I think she's just a phenomenal actress. And yeah, there's no way that if she does get nominated, which I hope she does, I haven't seen the film, but I like her so much as an actress, and I'm really intrigued with this movie and her performance overall. That I would like to see her get nominated. Again, I'll judge that whenever I see the film. But if she is nominated, there's no way she's going to win because there's always that one person who gets nominated and for a fact isn't going to win, like Vanessa Kirby, or like there's always that one person like Sally Hawkins in The Shape of Water, like very much like similar, like who like everyone would love to win, um, but there's just too many other people in the category, and you have Kristen Stewart with Spencer just running away with the thing right now. What it looks like, anyways. You have to feel bad for people like Rooney Mara and whoever else is going to get nominated. That they don't really stand a chance, and that can change. But I don't think Rooney Mara will be the person to unseat Stewart at the very top.
Yeah. I don't think she has a chance of getting into actress right now, honestly. I do think we'll talk about it later, but Kristen Stewart is definitely easily the front runner right now. I do think Kate Blanchett could get into supporting actress though, but like Anthony said, I don't think it's going to be a huge acting movie per se. I don't think there's going to be a ton of like standout performances. Maybe
Which
ensemble,
we
but
have to wait and see because Shape of Water did clean up with three acting nominations
yeah,
for Sally Hawkins in lead, Richard Jenkins in supporting actor, and Octavia Spencer. And Octavia Spencer should be noted. I mean, I love her, but that wasn't much of a role. And the
no,
fact that she got in there, maybe that is the Kate Blanchett. Like we love you, and you have a smaller role in this, but you stand out. I think it's interesting. It's opening later too, which we'll see. But I
yeah,
definitely think this choice is to prop up Kate Blanchett more than
hmm,
Rooney Mara. This is to try and
yeah,
get Kate a nomination, not trying to get Rooney, which I feel bad for because this is like the second time this has happened, where it's
yeah,
like this happened with Carol, where it's like they thought Kate was going to win before like Room came out, and so they pushed her for lead, and it's like, I feel bad for Rooney Mara. She's great. She's like
hmm,
Saoirse Ronan, who's like she plays a lot of subtleties and nuances that are so subtle that sometimes you don't pick up on how well she's acting. Um,
definitely.
so one day, hopefully.
Yeah, and poor Tony Collette, who was in supporting. Kate Blanchett's going to be taking your spot, I'm afraid. So yeah, now moving on to a movie that will be releasing in a few weeks, Licorice Pizza. Its first reactions came out last night, and they are praising the movie a lot. Just to read a few, J.J. Abrams himself said, "Truly incredible debut performances. There's little better than going to a PTA movie. Go see Licorice Pizza." Ben, I'm not going to be able to pronounce his last name.
Mankiewicz?
Yeah, Mankiewicz. There you go.
There you go.
The world needs to prepare itself for the overwhelming charm, likability, and humanity of Alana Haim in Licorice Pizza. She seems to be the standout among the performances. People saying it's perfect, utter magic. Everyone's praising it. You know, PTA, he's overdue for his Oscar. It's coming out, I think, around Thanksgiving. So yeah, what do you guys think of these early reactions?
Kind of give me La La Land vibes with the kind of magical sense of the movie. I do like La La Land quite a bit. I haven't seen it since like 2017. I need to give it a rewatch. But I think I like the vibe of the movie. I like all the pictures I've seen. The posters have been so cool, and the magic that people are describing there is something that I think is only really felt when you watch like behind the scenes documentaries and stuff like that, like Behind the Monsters on Shudder, which gives you like an in-depth look at all these horror films. I think that's when you get the true sense of magic, not really when you watch the movies. So when a film can show that magic of being in Hollywood and doing that type of stuff, I think it's really something special. And I think if Licorice Pizza can do that, it will have its place in the Oscar trifecta, or whatever, however you say. But it'll be up there this year if it can capture that.
Definitely, yeah. Also noted, not much talk about Bradley Cooper, so I assume small role, maybe not even supporting actor nomination worthy. But what did you think of these reactions, Antony?
I think that they were surprising to me because I feel like after that first trailer, I think a lot of people were putting this into the inherent vice category of his films. Like this was one that was it would be good, but not like as great as some of his best works that usually get this Oscar attention. But after these reactions, I think what's going to help Licorice Pizza is that it's, I think, the most different of the contenders. And I think it will stand out in a way that I think Jojo Rabbit stood out a couple of years ago in the Oscar race, that it's the movie that makes you feel and emotionally moves you, that's different from the other nominees. And I think that could really help. And I think from these reactions, I think Alana Haim's performance, am I pronouncing her name right?
I think so, yeah.
I think I've been looking for like who gets that fifth spot for actress, because I kind of we have to see what the general reaction is to House of Gucci, but even if the reaction is mixed, I think Lady Gaga still has a strong chance of getting in. And so if it's Kristen Stewart, Olivia Colman in The Lost Daughter, Gaga, and then Parallel Mothers, Penelope Cruz, I kind of feel strongly about those four, so I was looking for that fifth spot. And I
Chastain.
The thing about Chastain is the movie didn't really make a lot of money, and it came out in September to mixed reviews. And I kind of don't think it has the bandwidth to support itself, especially if the Golden Globes aren't going to factor in much to this season, where if they were going to put that in comedy, maybe she could get a Golden Globe off of it. I don't know if she can support herself, especially if if Licorice Pizza is going to be this movie that everybody falls in love with, and she's the best part of it. Like, I feel like we were thinking maybe Rachel Zegler, because that was going to be a late contender if she could surprise. But now that I'm seeing these reactions, I kind of feel strongly about Alana maybe sneaking in and getting that fifth spot. If people, the same way that Scarlett Johansson and Jojo Rabbit slipped in because people loved the movie and really thought she was the standout of the film.
Yeah.
So I'm interested. I'm more interested in the film now, which is always great.
Definitely, yeah. It looked like a crowd pleaser from the trailer, and it definitely sounds like it is one. So I think usually the crowd pleasers win Best Picture. So I think this definitely upped its chances from what I previously thought.
We have a lot of crowd pleasers, though.
Yeah, King Richard and Belfast.
Yeah, it's a lot of crowd. I'm interested to see if they cancel each other out, or if one is able to please the crowd more than others.
Yeah. And in actress, I do have Chastain as my number 2 still. I don't see a world where she doesn't get nominated, personally.
I wouldn't be surprised if she gets in. She's reeking of like Jennifer Lopez in Hustlers, where everybody was like amazed with her at the start, but because of the season, I think she lost momentum because, I mean, people just gravitate towards the new things. So
Mhm.
like Alana, not that I'm equating these performances, but I feel like Alana could be the Kathy Bates of like she comes in, she shocks people, and that's what they have on their mind when they're voting. And also, I think Licorice Pizza is going to be a film they nominate in more categories.
Definitely, yeah.
Jessica Chastain is going to be the sole nominee for Tammy Faye, maybe makeup.
Definitely makeup. I feel like they're gonna
But
like that transformation stuff, and I just think it's too Oscar baity for me personally to leave it out. I would say out of your list, I would kick out Penelope Cruz because that movie is not even going into international feature. So I think maybe
possible,
she could
but
be kicked
we
out.
always get those Antonio Banderases, those Jonathan
Mhm.
Prices, those like smaller
True.
actors who they really love, who just pop in there without like much like film Twitter attention. So
Yeah, true.
that's why I'm looking at her as a potential upset.
Definitely the most crowded category.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on Licorice Pizza, or shall we move on?
I hope
Oh,
Paul Thomas Anderson makes his first watchable movie since There Will Be Blood.
oh wow,
Ooh, fighting words.
that's a hot take.
I don't think it is. Well, not from my eyes. I'm wearing
Yeah,
glasses now because I had to watch those 3 movies, unfortunately.
yeah. Well, see, it seems like more like his earlier films than his more recent
Yeah.
films. So that's a good thing for you. Um, so then next, we've been talking about Nolan's Oppenheimer film a little bit recently, and they've added some cast members. They've added Robert Downey Jr., Matt Damon, and Emily Blunt, all joining this film. Um, I'm most excited here for Emily Blunt, even though she's playing the wife character, and Nolan's not really good with female characters, but hopefully she can stand out. And also RDJ finally doing something outside of the Marvel movies that isn't Doolittle. I think both of them are overdue for some Oscar attention. So I think that could be a potential spot for both of them. And also Cillian Murphy, who I just want to get some
Killian.
sort of love somewhere. Killian, I always mispronounce it. Cillian Murphy, who deserves a lot more attention than he gets. So how are you guys feeling about this movie and the cast members?
Antony?
Um, Listen, I think we gotta wait to see what Nolan does because the thing is like, for example, I think his other Oscar type of movie is Dunkirk. On paper, that seems like the type of movie that would do well, but because it's Nolan, his form with that film was very unique. It's why I love the film. I love Dunkirk, and it gets better every time I watch it. But I feel like it definitely is a harder sell than the traditional war movie, and that's why Dunkirk didn't, I think, perform the way that other war movies had, and didn't come close in the way that like 1917 did 2 years later. With Oppenheimer, I can't imagine he's making a traditional biopic. So I think we have to wait to see what his approach is, because I do think there's a lot of people who want to honor Nolan, but at the same time, they don't. There needs to be a real rush, a real emotional connectiveness, like we're seeing with Licorice Pizza, for anything to resonate. Emily Blunt, Robert Downey Jr. I think they're very talented actors who I think bring an emotional connection with whatever they do. Maybe save for Doolittle,
Yeah.
but so I do think that he's rounding out the cast well. But also, it should be noted, like Emily Blunt has been a constant like Oscars bridesmaid in terms of she gets so close to a nomination and doesn't even get the nom, let alone the
Mhm.
win. Downey has been, his Chaplin upset is one of, I think, the more discussed, upsets. And, of course, he's only been nominated one other time for Tropic Thunder. So, he is amassing a bunch of people who get close to Oscars but don't get Oscars. So I
Yeah.
wonder if that will plague him. But listen, I'm interested in the film. I think Nolan's a really interesting filmmaker, and I think I feel like even if you don't like his films, I always end up respecting his films. So, and to be honest, I haven't seen a film that I haven't liked of his. So I'm interested, and I love this cast.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Ben?
This cast makes me significantly less excited for the movie.
Oh,
And
wow.
I don't really know why. I just feel like it's less exciting than his cast for, say, Tenet. Like with Tenet, it was like, I wouldn't say newcomers, but kind of fresh faces, people who we haven't seen in big blockbusters before, like John David Washington, Elizabeth Debicki, and Robert Pattinson. Like, whatever you think about the movie, I know, Jack, you don't really like it, but for
I
me,
like
the cast, you like it?
I love the movie. It was in my top 5 of last year.
I loved it too. Upon rewatch, um, it's Robert Downey Jr., Matt Damon. They just seem kind of boring to me. Like I feel like I've seen like everything they've done. They've had such a long career, and even to an extent, Cillian Murphy. Like I feel like I know what to expect from the movie now. Whereas walking into Tenet, I was like, I love Elizabeth Debicki in Widow. She was amazing, but that's all I've ever really seen her in. So like, what's she gonna do? And I think she's probably Nolan's best female character. And Emily Blunt, to be fair, like Elizabeth Debicki did play a wife character. Now she had her own agency and her own story completely, but I do think Emily Blunt is probably the best out of this list of new cast members, because um, she could be the Elizabeth Debicki of this film and just kind of swoop in out of nowhere and completely save it. But I don't know, just the Robert Downey Jr., the Matt Damon thing, for some reason it just feels kind of boring to me. And I didn't really expect Nolan to do that. Like, he has a strong list of people who he's worked with before, and I'm surprised he chose them over like Hugh Jackman or something. Oh, sorry, I thought I was going to sneeze.
Yeah, I think Nolan is a cold filmmaker, and I think that's where he has trouble with the Oscars because they prefer more warm, like emotional films, and he doesn't have that. But I do think, based off of the role description that RDJ has, he's like the head of some sort of like council of these scientists. So I think he could inject some life into it. And Emily Blunt, I agree, should be the standout. But that's pretty much it for that.
I will say, I just want to say, because I know Nolan gets referred to as a cold filmmaker a lot of times, which I understand why people think that. But personally, like, I feel like the end of The Dark Knight Rises, when Bruce Wayne tells Gordon, basically who he is, and that beautiful, like, anybody can be a hero, putting a coat around a young boy's shoulders, that could be enough. And like, I think Interstellar, and then Tenet, of course, I think is a really touching film, surprisingly. So I do think that he's getting, I do think he is improving with the warmth of his films. I think it has a similar thing to Denis Villeneuve, where it's like you emotionally connect more with his process as a director than his characters, because he is such a technical filmmaker. But I do think, if Robert Downey Jr. can go back to his roots and can really like break free as an actor, and I think Emily Blunt's on an uptick after A Quiet Place and Quiet Place Part 2 and Jungle Cruise. Like, I feel like I think he may amass a nice cast to really get you care. And I mean, I don't know, we'll talk about this somewhere else or later today, but I mean, even in the 1 minute scene of Eternals with the Hiroshima sequence, I mean, you felt a little bit. So I feel like he's destined to make you feel a little bit when that bomb goes off. So it may be inevitable that he gets us to feel. And when you have Emily Blunt there, maybe he will get people to feel. Well, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, this definitely seems like a more intimate premise. It's not like something huge and blockbustery, which could be more cold. And I do think Interstellar is definitely his most emotional film, which is why it's my favorite of his films.
Our love's going to save the world.
Yeah. And then last in the news here, the Hollywood Music and Media announced their nominees for 2021 of scores. So in feature film, they did Don't Look Up, King Richard, Nightmare Alley, No Time to Die, Stillwater, French Dispatch, Last Duel, Power of the Dog, and Tragedy of Macbeth. So a lot of things there. I don't know how many of those are actual contenders. Probably only Power of the Dog out of those is what I'd say.
I'm surprised at Don't Look Up. That did not seem like a movie that would have like a score in a way.
Yeah, it is Nicholas Bertel, so I'm sure it would be okay.
Okay, maybe something in line with his Succession work. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. That would be fitting. Animated film, none of those are going to be contenders, so we can skip over that. Score for sci-fi fantasy film: Black Widow, Dune, Cinderella from Amazon. Interesting. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and The Suicide Squad. I think
they didn't put A Quiet Place.
They separate it by genre. So next would be horror, and A Quiet Place is in there. Oh, thankfully. Okay.
Did they put Halloween Kills for horror?
Yeah. I'm happy with Black Widow. I've put on, the track is called The Descent, and it's when she's flying to catch Shelena, and I put that on while driving on the highway. It's quite a thrill. Yeah. I'm happy with that. I just want to say, is Spencer not nominated for its score? Because I thought that's
isn't.
Johnny Greenwood's work on
terrible.
Spencer I thought was like
so good.
I would definitely have nominated that.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't nominate it, but
They
I don't
nominated
know. If they can
Stillwater
nominate
and not
Stillwater, I
Spencer.
don't know.
They nominated both
Oh,
Matt Damon movies, but not
They did.
Spencer. That's
They did.
ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know
Okay.
why. And then lastly is score for horror film. We have A Quiet Place 2, Army of the Dead, In the Earth, Last Night in Soho, and Old. A Quiet Place would be my favorite out of
Wait,
these.
there's no Halloween Kills not there.
No,
How
no
is
Halloween
that? John
Kills.
Carpenter did the score for that, and he did an amazing job. Dirty bastards! Oh
I was
my
about to
god!
say it's because people were mixed on the film, but when you have old in there, I'm
Yeah,
like, well,
Yeah,
people were not just mixed on. No, they said that was downright bad. I know people who said they hated that movie. That it was one of the worst things they'd ever seen. Now that always happens with Shyamalan, and it's like I haven't seen Old yet, and I'll probably like it because I like his new work. But like, come on, my guy, like that's ridiculous. But yeah, Quiet Place Part 2, good for Quiet Place.
I don't remember a single thing about the Army of the Dead score either. So, if
As
I
a
that's
remember
Snyder
the
fan,
opening.
I do not remember anything about the score. I
yeah,
don't, but I'm happy it's there. I'm glad that it got nominated. If
yeah.
Halloween Kills can't, and it genuinely had just this, oh, chef's kiss of a score that heightened the tension. It was gorgeous. It was stunning. But no, they had to nominate Old. Whatever.
I think they should try to find a way to sneak Spencer into horror film. But
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, okay, that's pretty much it. The other ones are like documentary and such. Okay, so yeah, not a whole ton there, but some interesting choices.
Wait, can I ask what was in documentary? Just go through it.
Documentary had, where'd it go? Documentary was 14 Peaks, Nothing is Impossible, Becoming Cousteau, Julia, Operation Varsity Blues, Cusack, The History of a Golden Man, Strip Down, Rise Up, and The Rescue.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, I've really only heard of The Rescue out of those, so that may win. Okay, and now heading into the trailer section, we only really had one new trailer this week, and that would be the trailer for Swan Song, the new Apple TV movie, starring Mahershala Ali, reuniting with Naomi Harris from Moonlight, Glenn Close, Aquafina. I thought it looked pretty good. It looked fun. Not fun. It looked like a good movie that I would enjoy watching. Mahershala looked like he was giving a really good performance, and I always enjoy Glenn Close's screen presence. It looked like Naomi Harris didn't have a ton to do, but hopefully she has a little more to do in the movie. I don't think it's a big awards contender, but it looks like it'd be a good movie. Apple TV makes generally pretty good movies, I would say. So what do you guys think? Besides for Cher, what do you guys think?
I would first off, if you haven't seen Coda, that's the other big
Yeah.
Apple TV Plus movie so far. Check that out. We'll see. I think I've heard talks of maybe supporting actor, just because again, it's a very limited category, but we'll see.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe. But as for Swan Song, I saw the trailer. It definitely looks really interesting and great. I believe this is Mahershala Ali's first lead performance, which I think will be cool to see.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be a really engaging film. I'm not sure for awards season, just for two things. One, I think the genre of the film doesn't seem to appeal to them, and you've got to be like really great to break through. And I don't think that means that this will negatively impact the film, or I don't have faith in the film. It's just you got to be like Get Out to get in big for these movies. And I think the real reason why it won't perform with the award season is because I think Apple TV Plus is going to put all of their faith on Tragedy of Macbeth.
Mm-hmm.
That will be everything, which I do think I feel bad because I feel like a lot of times when these streamers and these studios have a lot of movies, I'm like, support them all. But like we've seen with Netflix over the past 2 years, that when they split, like they don't really materialize. And so I feel like you do have to get behind one movie if you want it to perform. And I think Apple TV Plus will do that with Tragedy of Macbeth. So again, we'll see. But the trailer, I still think it looked great. I'll definitely be checking out the film. It looked cool. It looked right up my alley.
Yeah, cool idea. I think the double performance with Mahershala will be fun. What do you think, Ben?
I agree with Antony. They are going to throw their support behind the tragedy of Macbeth. Uh, like we've seen this before. I think the lack of nominations for like Pieces of a Woman overall, they'd only got one when I think it should have at least gotten two. I would have given it like five, like cinematography and picture, maybe even screenplay, because I thought it was
Supporting
just so
actress.
supporting actress. That's what I said.
Oh yeah, I don't know if I heard it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, that movie should have gotten way more attention and it didn't, and that's because Netflix had like 10 movies that like last year, and I think we're going to see the same thing here. I love the cast, Aquafina and Naomi Harris. Like, you have either one of those two people in a movie, and I'm going to see it. Not if you're in a James Bond movie because I have zero interest, but if you're in any other movie, Naomi Harris, I will see it. Um, and like, I love her to pieces. I just think she's such a phenomenal actress, and no one gives her any attention, and she's been in the industry for so long, and she's been working for so long, and she still gets little amount of films, like
I
after
don't
Moonlight.
I don't know if this is an unpopular, probably is an unpopular opinion, but I mean, if I was a voter in 2017 for the 2016 movies, I might have given Naomi Harris Best Supporting Actress over Viola Davis.
I
Like,
definitely would have given it to her.
Yeah.
I
yeah,
Viola
definitely would
Davis
have
was
given
a
it to her.
lead, so
Yeah.
yeah,
that
well,
category for
which
her.
was I look back on that and I was like, what were they trying to get away from? Because Emma Stone didn't materialize until Natalie Portman didn't win the Globe. So were they really moving Viola off of Portman? Like, that was what was surprising about that race. Is, I mean, Amy Adams, you could argue, but then she didn't get nominated. It was very interesting that they pushed her for supporting when she won Best Actress outright for the Tonys for the same performance.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other story. The point being, Naomi Harris is great. And I felt bad looking at Aquafina because she was the only one that didn't have Academy Award blank over her name, and she should
Golden
have.
Globe winner.
Golden Globe winner. Yeah, but that I'm interested if that doesn't have the same cachet now. Like, they won't put that over people.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you know, her Golden Globe win is her biggest cred.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree, Antony. Isabelle Huppert should have won in 2017 for Elle.
She was good. She was good. I mean, La La Land's my favorite movie, so I'm just gonna defend.
Oh, what else? Okay, never mind.
Sorry, I mean, I love Isabelle Huppert, but that was one for me.
I appreciate that answer. I understand. But anyways, I agree. I feel bad for this incredible cast for what will likely be an incredible film that will probably get no nominations. It kind of gives me Waves vibes. You know,
that was such a good movie.
Incredible film, but unfortunately, just from the studio it was with A24, that they're not particularly good at getting films nominated anymore. They had Minari, but that was their first one in like 3 years, and they had a lot of material to work with in those 3 years. And I think the same will be with Apple TV. I think they're only going to try for the tragedy of Macbeth, and I unfortunately think that this film will get lost in the sort of Oscar wilderness. Like, I think last year we were lucky; we got films like Sound of Metal to be nominated, and we got The Promising Young Woman's and The Judas and the Black Messiah is nominated, like just true gems that may not have been nominated in any other year. But I don't think that it's the same year anymore. Cinemas have kind of come back, and there's just such a volume of movies hitting us that it's just just impossible to sort of like even remember them all. So I think this film unfortunately will not get any recognition. Even if it deserves it, it probably won't, because that's just the nature of award season, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I know this is kind of a weird place to say it, but don't let awards dictate what you see. Watch the movie, check it out. If it looks great, you know, just because, you know, Judi Dench isn't in it doesn't mean, and you know, there aren't any Irish accents, or, you know, Will Smith isn't playing tennis, doesn't mean that you shouldn't check it out.
Very true. Very true. It looks like a good movie, so I think everyone should check it out. That's all for the news and trailers section. Now we're getting into the reviews section. Starting off with a recent Netflix release, The Harder They Fall, a Western starring Jonathan Majors, Idris Elba, Regina King, Zazie Beetz, R.J. Seiler, Lakeith Stanfield, Delroy Lindo, stacked cast. I really like this movie. Did anyone else see it?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's just me today. No, it's okay. I really liked it overall. I thought it was a very well done movie. I would recommend that everyone checks it out. The particular standouts who surprised me was R.J. Seiler. I think he should really be a bigger star than he is right now. He stole every scene that he was in with his charisma. Also, I forget the actress's name, but the actress who plays Cuffy in the movie was also a huge standout character. And I think she should deserve more work after that too. Those were the big standout characters for me, surprisingly, because they weren't two big actors who
Was
in
it
this.
Danielle Deadweiler? Is that who you're talking about?
I believe so. Yeah, that
Kathy?
sounds right. Yeah, yeah,
There you go.
yeah. Her and R.J. Seiler were the standouts, which was surprising because it's a cast full of huge A-list stars. Of the A-list stars, I would say Regina King was the standout amongst them. She was
What else?
she's always a standout. Yeah, she's very intimidating in the movie. She plays a villain, and she has a cool accent that I think other actors wouldn't be able to pull off, but she pulls it off. Um, and there's one monologue that she has that's just like she does it like in front of someone who she's kidnapped. It's very intimidating. She's like peeling an apple while doing it. It's very well done. And also Jonathan Majors was also very, very good. He's on a very quick rise right now as a star, and he just has that it factor. So I think he deserves to become a big movie star. And Idris Elba also, he also had one monologue towards the end, an emotional one. So he was also really good in it. Lakeith was good. Everyone was pretty much good in it. The action was surprisingly good, especially towards the end. There's the final shootout at the end, as in most Westerns. That was very well done. What else? There's a bank robbery scene and a train heist scene. Both of those were well done action scenes. On the train heist scene, there's a nice little tribute to Chadwick Boseman. The name of the train is C.A. Boseman, which stands for Chadwick Aaron Boseman, which was nice. But I think the big standout here would be the direction from James Samuel. It's really, really well directed. Like, people say it's similar to Tarantino, but I honestly think it's better than some of Tarantino's work in terms of style. And I think he's also kind of calling out Tarantino in some ways, which I think you'll discover when you see the movie. So yeah, this was a really well done movie. My one complaint would be Zazie Beetz is the emotional love interest for Jonathan Majors in this movie. And their relationship is really important to the plot and like motivation and stuff. And her performance wasn't that good, and I didn't really but in the couple I felt the emotion from Jonathan Majors, but I didn't feel much like romance from her side. So that kind of messes with the motivations a little because she's like a big part of that. But other than that, it's a really, really good movie. It's on Netflix. I think it would be a big crowd pleaser, like recommend it to your parents and such. There's a cool twist at the end as well that you should avoid getting spoiled that I didn't see coming. So yeah, it's a really good movie, and I would recommend it. The Harder They Fall. I'd give it probably like an 8 out of 10. So pretty good.
I'm interested in checking it out. I saw another awards contender this weekend. I saw The Lost Daughter, so that was got in the way of
cool.
me seeing The Harder They Fall. But I'm interested in checking it out. That cast alone is enough to get me to turn on Netflix.
Yeah, it's really good. I think it's like nominated or like getting a tribute for ensemble at the Gotham Awards, which is usually a good sign in previous years of someone getting nominated for a acting performance. I don't know if anyone will hear. Supporting actor is pretty empty, so maybe Idris Elba could sneak in, and don't count out Regina King also, because they both have good performance moments. So I think both are definitely possible. And other than that, I wouldn't say there's really much awards potential here. So, but yeah,
Disappointed about Zazie Beetz. She's my favorite cast. Actually, she's my favorite cast member there.
She gets a lot to do. Maybe you'll like it. It just personally wasn't resonating with me. She has some cool action scenes though. So
if you love Zazie Beetz, give 9 Days a watch. I think it just hit digital. Yeah. It's still my favorite film of the year.
Did it come out?
On digital, at least in the States, it did.
The like rollout of that movie was so butchered in so many ways. It was like at festivals like early last year and like just very messy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's The Harder They Fall. Now we're getting into a recent release of this weekend, the latest MCU movie. It is Eternals, directed by the Oscar-winning Chloe Zhao. You know, it's lots of mixed responses out there. It's their first rotten movie. Audiences seem to enjoy it more. I personally slightly lean positive on it, but what did you guys think of Eternals?
You want to go, Ben?
Look, I'm just going to disclaimer. When I was watching the movie, a fire happened, and so it cut off halfway through, so I haven't finished Eternals yet. And
Yeah.
it was at the turning point in the movie. I know it was the turning point. You know, at the ranch, you know,
Yeah,
where like it's towards the end of the movie, it was that scene, and I was so interested and gripping, and I just cut to black when we had to leave. So I
that's
haven't
like the
finished it
best
yet.
part, the
I
ending.
know. I was really, really enjoying it. And then, well, look, I let's just say I really wanted the movie to end like as soon as possible. I wanted to leave, but I didn't want it to just cut off like that. I did want to finish it.
Yeah,
What I did see, I'll say I was unfortunately disappointed on. I think the acting was so flat. I was so disappointed. Gemma Chan and Leah McHugh in particular. Leah McHugh acted her little heart out in The Lodge, and I honestly thought that was one of the best performances of last year. And I thought she should have maybe gotten some recognition somewhere. And I was surprised at how shockingly unimpactful she was in Eternals because I've seen her do incredible work. Gemma Chan, like that scene where they're like I expected more emotion out of both of them. Richard Madden was kind of flat. I hated Kumail Nanjiani. I did not think he was funny whatsoever. He brought down every scene he was in. Angelina Jolie was the only bright spot for me. And when I say she was the bright spot, she was the bright spot. I thought she was phenomenal. I loved her action sequences. I loved her character. I thought she acted very, very well. And I liked the grandiose of the film. I liked how it kind of felt like Greek mythology in a way that I don't think that the DC extended universe, even though they claim to derive from Greek myths with Wonder Woman and Shazam, I don't feel like they've ever gotten to the epicness of the Eternals fighting the Deviants at the beginning of time, and that sort of I loved that in the film. I loved how grand it was, how rooted in Greek mythology it was, and I really wanted more of that. I don't think we got it. I am pretty sad, but I also think that like I'm not a Marvel person, so it probably would be in my top 10 MCU films alone, just simply because of how different it was. Um, but all I think it would be brought down by, unfortunately, how MCU it was. I think people are saying like it was so. The reason that it kind of failed a little bit was because it wasn't close to the MCU formula. I think the reason it failed was because I think it's a significantly better film than Wonder Woman 84, which is god awful. Um, but that film, in a way, was torn between two directions. Um, that's because Patty Jenkins and Jeff Johns did a horrible job crafting that film. I think that this film was torn between two directions of trying to sprinkle in a little bit of Marvel here and there, but also trying to be Chloe Zhao. They did not let Chloe Zhao be Chloe Zhao. I'm confident in that because I think it would be a significantly better film if they did. And I think that unfortunately that significantly brings the movie down. But again, I haven't finished yet, and I'm probably not going to see it until it comes out in Disney Plus because I do not have time to go back to the cinema to see it again. At least I get a free ticket for something else, so I'll probably be seeing Spencer for free. So that's nice.
yeah. I would recommend Spencer over this. Yeah, for this one, I would say the first act is really tough for me personally. I think that's where the weakest acting choices are made, especially from Leah McHugh. Um, and also just the characters that the first act focus on, I wasn't interested in any of them personally. So it got more interested. It got more interesting for me and picked up more once they introduced people like Druig or Makari or Fastos, because I found their characters much more interesting. The overall plot and story I thought was really weak. I think it's way too ambitious in how much it tries to do, and it kind of stumbles um, because of how much it has to tackle here. I mean, 10 new characters, that's a lot. But I do think they did a pretty good job at establishing the characters in the amount of time that they had. I did like how different it felt from the other Marvel movies. It's probably their most different film, and I think it is very, very visually interesting. Probably their best looking film, either that or Doctor Strange, I would say. Um, yeah, and I did like because most Marvel movies, I don't feel any stakes at all. Like I feel like, oh, I don't think anyone big is going to die. If they die, they'll be back later in the movie. I actually felt stakes here for the characters, which was nice because that's a rare thing in Marvel movies. I think the editing was messy. It messed with the pacing, with the flashbacks and all that, and just in individual scenes, it felt like they weren't matching the continuity between shots. It was a little messy. Um, I didn't feel much emotion towards a lot of the characters. I would say my favorites were Druig definitely was my number one standout. Barry Keoghan, I think, did a really good job. Makari, I think their relationship was easily the best relationship, so I don't know why we focus so much on Cersei and Icarus. I did think Richard Madden did a good job. I think out of everyone, I think a lot of them were probably directed to kind of be emotionless because there's these gods who like live for centuries. So how emotional can they really be? And I think Richard Madden pulled that off the best of everyone. And I thought Brian Tyree Henry was really good as what's his name, Fastos. So those were the standouts amongst the cast for me. But yeah, also I think there was way too much exposition and there were some wacky CGI shots. But overall, I wish it was better because Zhao is helming it, so I had higher expectations, but I would slightly lean positive because I did still enjoy myself. What did you think, Antony?
Man, oh man, this is a hard movie to crack.
Yeah.
Okay, I've seen the film twice. I'm glad I saw it twice because it's a lot on the first viewing. I think the issues I have with the film is I think the film buckles under the weight that was self-imposed due to the ambitions the film had. And so it's hard, if something like Avengers Endgame or Civil War or Infinity War didn't work for you, I'm like, yeah, but this is, they've been building for so long, like the movie has to be this big. I felt like there were times where I was like, why are you doing this to yourself? Because I do think the movie has too many characters. And if I'm being honest, as much as I think Barry Keoghan and Don Lee were, I think, very good in the film, I honestly think that those characters were the least impactful on the narrative, that I would have taken them out and given their arcs to different characters. Because I think the issue here is that there were so many characters. The movie plays at very safe because it's like, okay, well, we have to go to this person and then this person and then this person, and we'll sprinkle in some flashbacks throughout. So structurally, it just had a lot of weight to it that you as an audience felt. I think the movie has some incredible highs. I think the third act, I feel bad for you, Ben, because the third
Easily
act,
the best part.
Easily the best part, and it's one of the better Marvel third acts. I thought, and Richard Madden, I think as Icarus, there's a moment where I won't specifically say what it is, but he has to beam something and he doesn't, and you can see it like flickering in his eyes as like tears come down. It's a very moving part, and I felt like the ending kind of, I do think it worked for me. That being said, I think you have two acts before that did feel like you're going on a journey that didn't really have a point. And I think that in the end is my issue with this. I felt that the movie was stretched so thin and they had a bunch of possible ideas, but they never ventured down them in any meaningful way that coalesces in the end. And so, and I feel like it's a shame because I really do think what the movie could have been, and you can see the ideas of it present in the film, could have been this fantastic, really interesting breath of fresh air for this franchise and for this genre. And again, the fact that it doesn't come to fruition, there is a sense of disappointment, but at the same time, I do respect the film. I respect that this film exists. I think that the fact that Marvel took these risks and allowed Chloe Zhao to take these risks is really impressive and noteworthy, even if they don't all come together. Listen, I'm a fan of The Last Jedi. I think that's a great film. For every Last Jedi, we're going to have movies like Eternals, or if BVS floats your boat, as the Ultimate Edition does mine as well. Risk-taking doesn't always work out. This is an example of when it didn't completely come to fruition, but I agree with you, Jack. I do tend to lean on the side of positive because I respect the ambition. And I do think overall, the movie, it kind of works. It kind of comes together at points. I enjoyed these characters, even if I don't think they were given as much interesting material to work off of. And I just think that's because the movie is trying to do so much that it doesn't keep the movie focused. I mean, that in the end is what Marvel was always known for. That's what made the MCU what it was, is because they were character-driven stories. You were caring more about Tony Stark than Iron Man. I think that's what the MCU was always built upon. And so for a movie to be more interested in the world and the plot rather than the characters' emotional journeys, that's where I think the film is then like I finds difficulty, because you're just like I don't really care for these characters because I really haven't been given a opportunity to really feel for them, and I think that in the end is what brings this movie down. I would probably put it. It would be in the bottom half of my MCU rank list. I don't think it's the worst one. I think it has enough going for it that it is, it's towards the middle, but it definitely did. It was disappointing. I think, No Man Land was my favorite movie of 2020. Avengers Endgame was my favorite movie of 2019. You literally took my two favorite things the last 2 years and you put them together. Of course, it's going to be disappointing if it doesn't, reach those same heights. So those are my overall thoughts. Check out The Council, which I'm pretty sure we're going to go into more depth on this in a spoilery way. But I think people should go see it. If you feel comfortable going to a theater, give it a try. It's definitely a divisive film, but it's been working for a lot of people. Give it a try, because I still think I want more movies to be made like this that take these risks, even if they don't always work out. So I applaud their attempt, even if it didn't coalesce 100%.
Yeah, definitely. I hope they don't take the wrong ideas from this and decide to stop taking risks. I'd also have it in the middle of my MCU rankings, right smack in the middle. Yeah, and I do feel bad for you, Ben, that you missed the third act, because that was it redeemed the entire movie for me, honestly. I think the first two acts I was like, is this going to be the worst Marvel movie? And then in the end I was like, okay, no, it's not.
Yeah.
I found there is a significant plot hole in this film, but I don't think I can ask the question without spoiling it. I've only seen the first two acts. It's nothing to do with the ranch scene. It's more to do with the big red guy. His whole idea and his plan, I think, makes zero sense to make the Eternals in the first place.
Yeah.
Because if you're making a planet, or you can edit this out if you want, I just genuinely want to know, because I think this is ridiculous. If you're making a planet to sustain these beings, I can't remember what they're called, then why bother make humanity in the first place? Why bother to just make them, just have planets be these little incubators? Why bother have anything live on them? Well, what's the point?
I think the reason is that they needed, the population had to grow to such an extent on these planets, because that's what fueled, that's the celestial to be born. That's why I agree with you. I think there were issues with his whole plan, and I think you can tell because how they tell you is literally just, thank you, Cersei. Now, 10 million years ago. There is an issue there.
Also, creating the Eternals, who will obviously have conflicts of interest if they're living on this planet for so long, they're obviously going to, be sympathetic towards them. I think I haven't seen the final act. I have an idea of what happens, but I don't really know. So it just sort of, I don't know.
It felt like somebody was writing down all of the ideas in the pitch meeting, stapled them together, and that was your script. That's what it felt like, because it's like, yeah, you have the ideas here. There are interesting concepts to explore, but they're not complementing each other in any meaningful way. And I think it's clear, to just use another example, whether you like it or not, I think you can look at something like The Last Jedi and see, oh, Kylo Ren has a specific view, Luke has a specific view, and then Rey's in the middle. It's very controlled. It's very exact in what its intent is, and you can find visual cues, like the fact that Kylo Ren on Crate leaves the red marks because he believes that everything you do leaves an impression, where Luke has grown that you can grow beyond your mistakes, which is why he doesn't leave those marks. There are little subtle things that you can find in that movie. Here, I don't think you can, because it's so strained. And partly because there are just so many characters. There's just so much going on. And even something like BVS, I think BVS, the Ultimate Edition, in the end, you know what the movie's about. You know what it's doing. And even if it has some issues, I think with Eternals, I got to the end of the movie and I was like, what's the theme exactly? I know what the ideas are, but what are you trying to say specifically? And the fact that, Jack, I don't know about you, I think a movie that is so idea-centric, the fact that the best thing about the movie is the third act fight sequence, I think also speaks to the quality of the movie itself.
Yeah, it's a little wishy-washy, and its messages. I feel like it also kind of redeems Thanos. It's like the fact that he snapped away half the population saved Earth an extra 5 years, which I don't know if they thought about that, but
Also, the movie sets up that thing. It's like, okay, if their whole thing is they're waiting for the population to grow, then if Thanos happens, wouldn't you then want to fight him because he
Yeah.
basically like ruined your plan? Like
yeah,
that.
exactly.
I mean, we were like the Kid Harrington like in like the thing that's been in the trailer. Like, okay, that worked, and then you put that in. It's like, wait a second, what?
hmm The whole world dying, that's a big deal. Half the world, we don't need to intervene,
That's fine.
I
significantly
also have to
less.
say I was disappointed with Kate Harrington. I thought he was terrible. I really thought almost everyone was terrible except for Angelina
He was
Jolie.
okay, I think.
Him and Zendaya need to go form a club.
Yeah.
Because I think they had collectively 15 minutes for movies that collectively had 320 minutes of screen time. So they need to go form a club of like, we are just here to promote the next chapter.
Yeah.
But
They both
Zendaya
have
did a
bright
great
futures.
job in the movie she was in. I can't say the same for Kate Harrington. I can't really
I don't
remember.
think Kid Harrington was given a role. He was an end credit scene that just walked his way into the actual movie.
Yeah.
He was great. Thank you, Antony.
What?
The end credit scene's not that big of a deal, to be honest.
No, I'm
Yeah.
just saying like he's just there to tease the future. I feel
He
like
is, yeah.
he doesn't really have a point to be in the main movie.
No.
Like nothing is done. Like it's a love triangle only in concept. It's not like he comes back at all.
I did like seeing him and Richard Madden in the same scene towards the beginning. That was fun.
My Game of Thrones loving heart.
Yes. So yeah, I think that's it on Eternals, unless anyone has any final thoughts.
I actually do, and that is
Yeah.
that Lauren Ridloff was absolutely
So good.
amazing. Unfortunately, I didn't see a lot of her in the film because like it cut out for me. But also, I don't like she should have been used a lot more. And the cast is so big. I agree with Anthony. They should have cut characters. I think they could have cut the guy who was looking after Angelina Jolie. Who was he?
Gilgamesh.
Yeah, I
Gilgamesh,
think they could have.
Connery.
I think they could have easily cut him. You could have just had Athena living by herself in isolation. I think that would have been even more sad. I think you could have cut Brian Tyree Henry's character out because I think he didn't do that much.
I would have given Druig's arc to Fastos because I think
Who's Druig?
Druig was very arrogant because
Yes.
his whole thing was like he wants to control people or help people because he doesn't want them to engage in conflict, and that's why he leaves the Eternals. If you gave that to Fastos and he's like, I want to help them, I can do that, and then they still go down the path of inevitably humans will always go down, and you get to the Hiroshima scene, I think you have a stronger arc there because you see somebody who wants to help but realizes it's inevitable that things are going to go wrong. You can't stop that even if you're a god. I think that would have been a really engaging arc if they just put those two characters together. And I agree. The thing with Thena is like if you put Thena and Gilgamesh together, it kind of makes Sprite's arc inconsequential because you can see that they can live a life together and they don't need to be involved in human connection. Like, I think that just undercuts Sprite's arc, and I feel bad for Lee McHugh because I think she was doing a fine performance, but she was really given a really hard character to sell.
She was given nothing, and that was so sad.
The idea of the character was, I think, cool about how her interacting with humans and seeing them grow and develop relationships and such made her envious because she's always going to be seen as a kid, and she can't really have that, but they didn't really pull that off.
I needed an explanation for why she was a kid, and also like if these are spoiler alert 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If they're robots, like I don't understand why you have a child robot and a deaf robot. Like I much would have rather if like Lauren Ridloff in the opening had an injury and then learned ASL, because that's the other thing. How are you learning? How do you already have American Sign Language in 5000 BC?
Oh my god. What the fuck? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so
also, throughout the movie, like sometimes people were signing her back and sometimes they were just speaking. It's like, don't like.
Yeah.
Which, granted, some people in the deaf community can read lips, but most of the time that's not like, that's usually a cop out in movies with deaf characters. I don't know. It's just something that, and also like the Marvel humor, like usually doesn't bother me, but when they're in 4000 BC, like it's very weird to see Kumail Nanjiani talk the way that people talk in the 21st century, and that kind of bothered me a little bit.
You could have cut him out for me as well. I genuinely thought he was awful, and I cannot believe it. Like I just couldn't stand him.
He cuts himself out in the second half of the movie, so.
Oh my God, that too. I can't
Disappears.
believe the character walks out on the movie. He's
Yeah.
not in the third act, Ben. He literally like just says, I don't believe in what's happening, and walks out, and he's not in the third act at all.
Oh, well, that's good, because then he's not
Yeah.
going to be in it.
Yeah.
I missed the part that he wasn't in. I'm actually
Exactly.
so sad now.
Yeah. So
It's
you could
weird.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I forgot
No,
who
yeah.
had the final word. We should just say awards chances, visual effects. I think it's deserving. Maybe cinematography. I do think some of the
No,
shots.
no way.
That's so
No
crowded
way.
this year. I think no
I'm just
way.
saying that would be the only other one, but I don't think for score. I mean, sound mixing and editing maybe.
Score
I
was
think
bad.
that the cinematography was the most disappointing part of the movie for me. It doesn't look like a Chloe Zhao film at all. The only stamp that she has is the sunset. It still is pale as fuck because Marvel doesn't know how to color grade their movies properly. I'll never forget, someone put the still out of Shang-Chi, and it was like Shang-Chi like in the bus, like the subway, and this person was like, this took me 10 minutes to do. And they just made it look like, it wasn't this crazy filter or anything. It looked normal, but it looks so much better. And I think you have the same problem in films like Ant-Man and the Wasp. If you're in California, San Francisco, and you look so bleak and dull for no reason whatsoever, and then you have these bright, vibrant visual effects that just do not work with the environment. I think that happened in Eternals. The visual effects did not blend with the environment whatsoever. The colors didn't pop. They did not use Chloe Zhao's typical cinematographer, the guy who was nominated for Nomadland, who should have won, her husband, I believe, isn't it? He should have been the cinematographer for this film, because whoever was, I don't think matched with Chloe Zhao's style whatsoever. But that's just me.
Yeah, there's a part of me that, like, if Avengers Endgame can't break out of the one nomination for visual effects, I don't see Eternals doing it. So
Yeah.
I think that'll be it for, again, maybe sound mixing and editing, but we'll see.
Maybe, yeah. Okay, yeah, so that's Eternals. As you can tell, it's definitely a mixed bag. Now on to the final movie we'll be reviewing this week. It is another recent release of this past weekend. Definitely a much better movie. It is Spencer. It's really, really good. I didn't think that Dune would be my number one movie of the year for 2 weeks, but here we are.
Really?
It's been unseated already, sadly. Spencer, I do think is a better made film. I think that I gave them both the same score, but I would slightly, right now at least, give Spencer a slight edge above it. I mean, just everything about this is so good. Kristen Stewart, of course, anchors it. I mean, this is like an amazing performance. So good. I can't see anyone topping it, to be honest, besides maybe Olivia Colman. Antony can speak to that more. But yeah,
Second act. I think you have the Carey Mulligan is Kristen, and I think the Francis is Olivia Colman. So we'll see which one ends up this year.
Let's hope Kristen wins, to be honest. Yeah, but she anchors the entire movie, and it's just like, it's such a good exploration of her mental state and the kind of stuff that she has to go through within this royal family. And like, as many people have said, it's a psychological horror in many ways. It tackles a lot of her issues that she had, and she's a deeply human character in this movie. Like, they don't portray her as someone who's like always being oppressed and stuff, even though in a lot of ways she is. She also, you can tell in moments like, that's not a great decision on your part. But yeah, I think also in other performances, I believe Sean Harris is his name. He plays the chef. He was the villain in the recent Mission Impossible movies. He was a big standout for me. I know lots of people are talking about Timothy Spall, but I liked him more. He did really good. And also Sally Hawkins as her like wardrobe person. She's not in it a ton, but I do like her and her relationship with Kristen Stewart, or Diana, which is important to the overall film. Technical wise, the cinematography is really, really good. The score is like so disturbing and like so off-putting in so many ways, but it fits the movie so well. The costume design, I mean, this or Cruella, I don't know. This is like, she has so many different costumes, and the costumes factor, like in Cruella, factor into the actual story as her form of rebellion.
Yeah, definitely. Jacqueline Durant.
Yeah, so many good things, so much more to talk about. But yeah, what did you think of the movie, Antony?
I've seen it twice, and I'm so glad I saw it twice, because I really liked it the first time. I loved it on the second time. And it is currently in my top 3 of the year, and it's going to be very hard for it to be taken down, because I thought movie was brilliant. I love the approach to this film as more of a thriller, and like it's the psychoanalysis of what it felt to be a member of that family for Diana. I thought it was brilliant the way it approached that. It is heartbreaking. There are, I think, 3 scenes with her sons, and
Mhm.
oh my God, it's heartbreaking, and they're so great. This is, I think, the making of a really great trilogy. Pablo Larraín says he's going to do
Yeah.
one more biopic about, first was Jackie, which I'm in the middle of rewatching, but that was very good. I think this is better. But yeah, cinematography, outstanding. The sound design on the film, the sound
Yeah.
mixing is incredible, especially the scenes when the strings come in. I think during the photography scene and the dinner
Hmm.
scene on Christmas Eve. Again, I can't say enough great things about the film. I think it really captures how she did feel like she was in captivity, and the loneliness she felt, and her own path to trying to find a way forward that unfortunately we know didn't last. And that's what's really, very, bittersweet about the film, because I do think the film shows a complete journey for Diana, and yet this wasn't what ended up to be.
Yeah.
Kristen Stewart's amazing, definitely deserving of a win. um, she really, I think she makes it her own. That's why I'm really still interested in Elizabeth Debicki, because you have very distinct actors coming in and giving their own distinct roles. I think they're going to be very signature, which I like. This whole movie is signature. I think that's why it works. For me, I think it's the best biopic since First Man, which I absolutely loved. That may be an unpopular opinion, but I love that film. And it's, again, very distinct. But yeah, completely fell in love with this movie. Go see it. Um, I could not say more wonderful things. It's really, really, really great.
This is how biopics should be made. It shouldn't be like Respect or Bohemian Rhapsody, where it's like their whole life and stuff. Like, just take it in the place of like one Christmas weekend. And that's, I think, it's just such a better approach to exploring them as people and as like human beings who you can actually understand their emotions and motivations. And you do that so much with Kristen Stewart here.
And
She just
there's
nails
so
it.
much to it too. Like this is
Yeah.
it's not like, okay, it's 3 days, but like there's a lot here.
Hmm.
There's a lot of, it kind of also reminded me of Three Identical Strangers, which was a documentary that really played with form in interesting ways. Because again, you may feel that it's constrained because of its timeline and its genre, but it's really not. I think it very is, it's specific in the ways it needs to be in terms of addressing Diana's life, but it is very freeing and a specific cinematic vision, which I think biopics and documentaries sometimes people think like, well, you're just telling truth. Well, truth has a perspective, and I think the perspective of Spencer is what makes it a really great film that I hope can again get some awards attention. Because again, as I think we both said, I would nominate it for picture,
Yeah.
director, actress, screenplay, costume design, score, sound mixing. It's one of the year's best.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with you that the scenes, especially with her 2 boys, and were the standouts, along with the scenes around like the dinner table. There are multiple of them, but there are so many of them. It just feels so like intimidating, and just the way people look at her, just feel so bad for her. I also thought it was telling that the people who she interacted with the most outside of her children were like work people, like the people who just work in the palace, like Sean Harris or what's her name, Sally Hawkins. Instead of like, you don't get a ton of the royal family in here. You get like one scene with the queen and like 2 scenes with Charles. Um, and I think that's telling because she felt very much, you can just feel like their like feelings towards her, and like just the way it's expressed, like how she's always late to things, and how like, I don't know, just everything about it. Everything is so well thought out. It's just, yeah, everyone should go check it out. Definitely. And I agree. I don't know if I would say picture, maybe a little too artsy.
I mean, I personally, what I would do, I
Oh,
don't think it's going to
personally,
get,
yeah,
I don't think it's going to
definitely.
get all of those nominations. I do think they're going to, I don't know if this will be just the campaign or just how they're going to push it, but I do think they're just going to try and go Kristen Stewart or bust, the same way it was
Yeah.
Natalie Portman or bust. Um, I think that is the more likely, and it's possible. I mean, I can't, not that I don't respect her, because I think she's a wonderful actor, but Academy Award winner Kristen Stewart, I just don't see them doing that. We'll see. It depends. We'll see. We'll see. I'm
Yeah,
interested in seeing how this goes because Jackie only got 3 nominations, I believe, for costume, score, and uh, Natalie Portman. I kind of think that maybe is what's going to happen this
yeah,
year. Same
possibly. Yeah.
nomination, so we'll see. But um, very interesting race. Very interesting Best Actress race.
Yeah, Best Actress is definitely the most interesting acting race to be watching. Um, so that's it for all of the recent reviews. Now we're going to do a little bit of a retrospective review. We have all never seen No Country for Old Men, the Coen brothers movie starring Josh Brolin and Javier Bardem and Tommy Lee Jones, and we have now watched it, and we are going to be talking about it just a little bit. I guess I'll start off a little quickly. Javier Bardem, I think, was easily the standout for me in this. There's very few characters in movies who I find as scary and intimidating. There's just something about his performance that just like so cold and emotionless, and he seems unstoppable. So he was definitely the standout. I haven't seen a ton from Josh Brolin outside of Dune and the MCU and one or two other movies, so I liked seeing him in this movie. I think he did a really good job. Yeah, I think these movies aren't exactly my cup of tea personally. It's a very dreary movie. It's too many animals getting killed. But yeah, I think even though it didn't personally like resonate with me a ton because it's kind of depressing, I still think it was a very well done movie, and the performances were the standouts for me. What did you guys think?
Ben, you want to go?
Yeah, I will say, having seen a lot of their films now, I can confidently say I'm just not a fan of the Coen Brothers. I just have never truly, I can honestly never say I've enjoyed any of their movies that I've watched of theirs. Fargo, I thought was a good film, but it took far too long to get to the point, and I was really bored, and I didn't really enjoy it. Burn After Reading, I thought was unwatchable. I really hated that movie, and this one, uh, I think it's good. I definitely think it's the best one of theirs that I've seen. Javier Bardem is obviously very, very good and very scary,
Mhm.
but like Best Picture, I don't really see that. Like, as directors, as names, I suppose it's good that they have it, but like Quentin Tarantino doesn't have a film that has won Best Picture. Not a lot of the great film directors have that. And I think if it was just sort of handed to them because it's the Coen brothers and this film is quite good, I don't think quite good is good enough for Best Picture. I did enjoy the movie. I thought there was a lot of really great aspects to it. The cinematography was amazing. I loved the score. The directing was even very good, and so was the acting. But I suppose I just kind of wanted more of it. I've heard so much about this movie for so long, and I just kind of felt like a tad disappointed. But at the same time, it's probably just because I don't really mesh well with the Coen Brothers style that much. I just don't really like it. So that's my thoughts. I think it's a good movie, and I think it's something that, look, if you're into movies, if you're a cinephile, it's a movie that you probably should watch because it's famous. It's a Best Picture winner. It's directed by the Coen Brothers, but I didn't I didn't take from it probably what the Oscar voters did take from it back in 2007. So those are my thoughts. Anthony?
Yeah, I would say I loved Fargo. And that's kind of I saw Hail Caesar, but I think I was a little too young to really properly analyze it. So out of what they've seen, I've only really seen Fargo, and I loved Fargo. Um, and having now seen this, it's kind of like There Will Be Blood probably should have maybe won the Best Picture instead
Yeah,
of this movie,
yeah,
because I think the overall thing is I was lacking a little bit of like motivation throughout from all the characters, and any emotional connectionness, which to be fair, I think westerns are tend to be known for. There is some in the third act. I think Tommy Lee Jones's final monologue. There's pieces there that you can analyze. But that being said, I think that's the one quibble I have with the film. Overall, I think it's really well directed. The performances are really strong. Roger Deakins, one of his best shot films. So yeah, I think it's a really good modern western, that I think also features a really great villain, one of the better modern villains in cinema. And like Ben, I'm glad I've seen it now because I feel like it's been such a like praised film, And I will say that westerns are probably my least favorite genre too, but still, I enjoy a good one. You know, if it's a good film, I'll still enjoy it. So overall, I enjoyed the film, but I think possibly this did feel like a Revenant type of win. Like, oh, we should have given it to you before, or a Departed. This is like, this isn't your best movie, but it's a really good one. So we'll honor you this year. This will be the year of the Coens.
I think The Departed is significantly better than this one. I really love The Departed, but that is just me.
But do you think The Departed is Scorsese's best?
I haven't seen a lot of his films, so I will say, yeah, probably that I've seen.
Okay.
Definitely better than The Irishman, which was shit.
Well, I think The Departed is a good film, but I think based on it's no Taxi Driver, for instance. And I think No Country for Old Men personally is no Fargo for me. So it's, again, a really good film that I think directed extraordinarily well, really tense film that was like, all right, this is the one. We'll get behind you in 2007. Why not? You know, this is, you know, you're doing, you know, Coen brothers, you're great filmmakers. We'll give you this one.
Yeah. So a little bit of a mixed reaction. We still liked it overall, but you know, it was maybe a little too overhyped for us personally. For anyone who submitted Q&A questions, we did not have time for them sadly this week, but we will be combining them with even more questions next week. So plenty of questions to be asked next week. But yeah, that's our episode this week. Eternals, Spencer, all that fun stuff. Thank you for watching. Comment your thoughts on any of the movies we talked about down below. Like the video, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And we will see you again next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.